Yep. Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SMD Viewpoints. These are viewpoints from a single lady perspective, married lady, and a divorced lady perspective. Today is episode 6. Congratulations, ladies, for reaching a milestone of episode 6. Yay! As usual, we have our 3 panelists. We have the single lady, which is Kimberly Sims.
What's up, everybody?
We have the married lady, Mrs. Karen Smith Owens.
Hey y'all.
And you have myself, the divorce lady, Jacqueline White. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. We have 2 guest panelists on our viewpoint on our podcast today. And this month is official domestic violence awareness month. And we wanted to touch bases on domestic violence, some of the reasonings behind it, or anything like that. And our guest panelists, we have Dawn and Kimberly. And if you 2 ladies would like to say something about yourself, to kind of introduce yourself, and I will start with Kimberly. If you can.
Hi everyone. My name is Kimberly Woodson, and I am the founder and director of Redeeming Kimberly and Michigan Liberation Campaign organizer. However, domestic violence is very dear to me. I'm sorry, we have a castaway on here, and she just got to be near me. So this is my baby. I'll get into that more details about why later, but this month is bittersweet to me. And I represent domestic violence not because I chose to, but because out of necessity of pain and anger and needing somewhere to funnel that anger, the funnel that anger from losing my sister last year to domestic violence.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. So this is a topic that is very near and dear to your heart. So, okay, we will get more into that later on in this episode. Dawn, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, good evening. My name is Dawn Teneyuque, and I'm the Director of Sexual Assault Services with YWCA Greater Flint. I've been working with the issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking for probably.
No, I think she froze.
Trying
There she goes.
to educate others and just raise awareness. And I think October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that's a perfect opportunity to really kind of spread that message. And I'm also a survivor of domestic violence as well. So I certainly have, that personal connection to, raise that awareness and educate others. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. We have a list of questions that we wanted to ask you, ladies. And Dawn, I'm going to start with you first. Could you tell us a little bit about what is domestic violence, and is domestic violence only physical, or is it more to it than the physical portion of it?
Yeah, I think, there's a misconception that domestic violence equals physical abuse. And certainly physical abuse is a component of domestic violence, but more often than not, we see other dynamics such as controlling behavior and intimidation and manipulation. You see a lot of those other dynamics as opposed to physical abuse. And the physical, it may or may not be there, just depending on, that particular situation. But domestic violence, it certainly comes in many forms. We talk about emotional abuse and some of that controlling and intimidating behavior, financial abuse, where they're not, folks are not allowed to have access to money or know how much the family's income or expenses are. psychological abuse, sexual abuse can play a role in there as well. So there's a lot of other dynamics, in addition to physical abuse. And I think sometimes people equate domestic violence with physical. And there's a lot of other factors that go into that describe or define domestic violence.
Wow, it's a lot of detail when you're talking about domestic violence. Okay, thank you so much. Kimberly, would you like to expound on that a little bit?
Yes, I just want to say that it's a huge misconception about domestic violence being completely physical, because you can be in a domestic violence relationship for decades and can count on one hand how many times it actually was physical, but the in-between terror, psychological and emotional, and all the other things that come into play. An abuser is a very kind and conniving, self-absorbing individual, and they will find any way necessary to make you be their subject and they be complete king and rule over you. It can be, like you said, they control all the finances where you don't get a job. It can start off with something as simple as, let me pamper you. You don't have to you don't have to have a job. You don't have to have this. Or it can be simple as you burnt up the pool for the first time because you were doing too much and you have a newborn child and you juggling things that's that's not new to you or you've never done before. And all of a sudden you're dumb and you're stupid. And that, because of this person, it means so much to you, begin to weigh on your psyche. And then you begin to tear yourself down. And so long before that first hit come, the woman has already begun to tear herself down, because most women, when we vow to love you, we give you all of us, and we are expecting a knight in shining armor. We are expecting a king to our queenness that we are giving to you, our sacrifice of us. And we want you to sacrifice all of yourself to back in return. And that don't happen. A lot of little boys that have grew up to be chronologically older thinks that the world is theirs and we supposed to just cater, but they forgot that life begun with mother and that we are to be catered to first in order for life to continue. So it has so many dynamics, and I can talk your whole show all the components of how they do not see or even begin to understand. And believe it or not, I believe domestic violence even start off in the childhood of the person who would grow up and become the abuser. Because my kids are 30 years apart. So, you do one thing the first time and then you start over and you begin to see things differently because you're older and wiser. And of course, it's so they say you're supposed to be. So, and I begin to see that certain chastisement is not suitable for our children, because I've taught my 3-year-old and spanking her little butt that when she don't get her way, she get to spank her down to get her way. Whoa. How did that message equate? So basically in their little mind, and we don't think about it because I'm bigger and I'm the one that get to say what I want to do because I'm using the most force. They don't understand that I'm the adult and they're the parent, and we are the parent and they're the child. We're parenting them and we're chastising them. And if we don't take the time to teach that kid the reason why we're popping them, then they're going to begin to feel like I hit to get my way. And so we don't re-educate and somehow do this spare the wild to spoil the child verse in the Bible you got to hit the child and don't spoil the child. But then where did we teach them that I'm upset or I'm hurt because you did this, and kind of like talk it out and then explain if we have to do a physical chastisement as to why. But I believe we as a society have to begin to think about how we're raising our children and what that message is being taught to them. Because if you think about it, before they took spankings out of the schools, even the teachers and the principals was able to spank us. I'm quoting my age, y'all.
Right.
my age.
And ours too.
Right.
Right.
I'm quoting my age, but you know, they was able to do all those things to us. And so they taught us. And so you have all these immature babies out here in adult bodies and equipped to deal and cope with raw, intense emotions. And when they hurt or they angry, they have been taught to lash out. But is it really their fault?
That's good. That's a good point.
Wow, that's very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Yep.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the personal touch that you just gave us. Karen,
Yes.
do you have a question for the panel?
What are some of the signs of domestic violence? Are there any signs that we can tell if our loved ones are engaged, or is there anything we can pick up to say, this is what's going on, that we know how to step in and help?
I think some of the things that, we kind of mentioned regarding, the dynamics of domestic violence are certainly, some things that you could pick up on. For example, we talked about the financial abuse. So maybe that person doesn't have access to finances, or they're given an allowance, or they have to ask for money. That certainly would be a sign or a concern that would be raised. If you're noticing that their partner is calling them names or insulting them, especially, in front of others, and just some of that controlling and intimidating behavior. I know just with my own work, my red flags go off all the time when I hear conversations, or even just being in Walmart or wherever. And I have a very heightened sense of, those type of dynamics that, I'm constantly paying attention to. Other things are like extreme jealousy, isolation, removing that person further and further away from friends and family. Just spend time with me. We don't need to hang out with your parents or your sister, and that person never seems to be able to, kind of hang out with their friends or their family members. It's always, their partners. So other things, there may be, the perpetrator may destroy their belongings, and, just other forms of intimidation that may be present. So those are just some of the key things to kind of be aware of and pay attention to. And one of the biggest things that you could ask a person if you are noticing these signs is just simply asking the question, are you safe? Is it safe at home? And it's okay to ask that question, even of a stranger. Are you safe? Do you need anything? It is okay to ask that, especially if you're noticing, some of those signs.
Okay, very good. When you say financial abuse, so you're saying basically that they would hide money from them, or won't let them spend money, or won't let them work?
All of the above. Maybe not let them work, like Kimberly said, presenting it in a way of, I'll take care of you, you don't need to work, and then that person kind of gets stuck because they have no access to income because they're not working. And even, situations, like I said, that maybe they're given an allowance because the perpetrator, handles all the finances and pays the bills. And so that person's given a very limited allowance. And so that, that financial abuse can be significant, because if you are trying to get out of the situation, but you have absolutely no access to money to do anything to get out of the situation or provide for yourself or for your children, it makes it very, very difficult, extremely difficult.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that. Kim, did you want to say anything in regards to that?
Yes, first I want to go back to the original question, like what are some of the signs? And what I've noticed in my sister's situation, and a lot of women, a lot of us who have friends that are survivors or who are no longer with us, we don't really notice it. They do a lot of excessive bragging about the person, about how wonderful they are, or how, all their wonderful attributes. They's always bragging about all the wonderful things, all the dirt gifts that they get, you know, the Pradas and the Gucci's and the Coaches and the new cars or whatever it might be. They do a lot of bragging about that. But on the same token, you can see it's like the absence of, like whenever you are like at their house, if you were privileged to be at the house, it's like it's always an absence of this phenomenal person. It's almost like they don't want you to interact or inconveniently make sure. And sometimes you might be comfortable with that because you might have grown a natural instinct of towards a person, like something is telling you something's not right. And as a person, you might want to stay away from them because you're trying to respect your loved one's relationship. But when I'm saying, if you feel a natural aversion to someone and you know your loved one is loving this person, don't shun away from them in a relationship. Kind of lean into it and ask your instincts why, because you'll see it first before that loved one reveal it to you. What's going on? He gonna hit on you. He gonna do something out of pocket. You gonna begin to hear something that's not quite right with the picture that she's trying to portray. And also, if you be around a little bit more, you will begin to see what they're not trying to show you. I missed a lot of signs with my sister. See, I had only been home a few years. I was gone for 29 years. She started this relationship while I was away. And from the visits and phone calls, he was perfect. To me, he was perfect. You couldn't ask for a better brother-in-law. And somehow, some way, when I came home, division came. I was the perfect sister-in-law as long as I was a murderer in prison. But when I became the murderer at home that can possibly find out about his dirty work and take him out, he began to separate us, cause division. And I thought it was other things, but I didn't realize that it was what he wanted to protect. His secret was his abuse of my sister, not the things that he was doing in the street that he thought I would find out about. So it's like, you got to look and question everything these days, because you have the neighbor who spoke to you every morning for the last 10 years. The next morning, he's not coming by and the police is there, and he didn't kill his wife and he didn't kill himself, or he missed him. You know what I'm saying? We have to pay attention to those signs. You know what I'm saying? Because you have a lot of men that's coming home, taking out life on the person that's the closest to them because they love them too much to not let it happen.
No, that is powerful. They love them too much. Yeah.
And I
Thank-
think too that you know, it's really hard for that person in that situation to identify some of the things that are wrong and identifying it as a domestic violence or an unhealthy relationship. But sometimes those outsiders, like a sister or a friend or neighbor, can kind of pick up on those things and realize this isn't good, right? And so, you know, it is important for that person to stay connected, even though they may be pushing them away because of the abusive relationship. You know what I mean? So it's important to still be that support person and be there for them, and maybe even, you know, kind of, you know, clue them in a little bit onto some of the things that are not okay in that relationship, and stay supportive. I think sometimes family members get frustrated, or friends, and say, well, you know, if you want to stay in it, then that's on you, right? But it's so complicated, and it's so difficult for folks to get out of those situations, that when family members and friends say those things, it certainly doesn't make it any easier for that survivor. So, you know, just kind of sticking through it and being, you know, continue to be that support person for them. I know for me, my sister was always so very frustrated with me because I didn't leave when I thought when she thought I should have left. And it wasn't the right time for me to leave because it was not safe for me. And that was frustrating for her. You know, she's just like, just go and be out of the situation.
But Don, when it was you and your sister were having conversations about it, you felt safest to talk to her when she allowed you to be in your space. But when you felt judged or confronted, all you did was buckle down, because regardless of whether I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, it's my life. And we have to realize it's a way to approach people in their trauma. Because even in my trauma, if I'm with this person, I'm still holding on to some glimmer of hope. One, he's gonna love me enough to stop this one day, or two, he's gonna finally work through his issue, and I'm gonna be enough. You know what I'm saying? We don't just stay, we stay for a lot of reasons, but at the core of that, it's what started us in the beginning of the relationship, is love.
Right.
And we as women, we have a problem of being fixers and nurturers. And our biggest flaw is that we don't know when to let go, because we have a problem with giving up on people. Especially when I don't know one woman that has a story that can't say is she got one person they like that she took her through the whole ringer, whether it was a child, a cousin, a best friend, or a relationship, that she just would not give up on that person until it was just no more for her to give. We all do it. And there's no shame in it. But we shame the victims when they don't move according to what we feel it should be. Our only job as supporters, and I'm gonna be honest, is to provide the means, the transportation. I don't, even if they got their own vehicle, we should be able to make sure they got a safe house, money, ready clothing, whether how to move the kids. We should have a escape plan readily, immediately in play. That's all we need to do. Hey, sister, you going through a lot? Hey, all I want you to do, work with me. Let's work out an escape plan. How much you think you're gonna be needing to have, and such, and how much you think we can, how long it's gonna take us to keep this, and we gonna put it up, we gonna put it somewhere. Yes, the movies, and we gonna pray like heck that nobody steal this car, and we gonna have it, and we gonna move it every now and then to different locations so that you can have it. Well, here go, just all you gotta do is hit it and go. But it leaves them the ability and the choice to make their decisions. If we pressure them when we ready for them to go, it sometimes can lead to something fatal. We have to be strategic on the offering up the help, but we have to remember it's not our personal lives that is at stake here. It's the woman, it's the person that is going through, because men get abused too. It's that individual that's suffering in that abusive relationship that needs an understanding ear first, a sympathetic heart, and hands and feet that's willing to move when I need you to move. Because it's gonna come a time and a breaking point. It may be 2 a.m, it might be 12 in the afternoon, where you're gonna get a phone call and they're gonna say, I'm ready. But are we ready? That's what we need to establish. We can talk about this from now until next October. But if we're not ready, if we're not ready to move these women when they call out for us, have we really, really helped them? Because I can talk all day, but if I don't have a safe place for her to lay her head where she can be safe, I don't have money to give her clothes because she may have had to lose everything. If we don't have the resources out there to help these people, and not just in October.
Exactly. Very good.
It should be something set up that we can move at a heartbeat. Let's stop talking about it and let's really have a war on domestic violence. Let's wage war.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna get off my soapbox now.
That's okay. No,
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm
This
glad
is-
you are.
yeah. Karen, we have time for one more question.
Yep, we got about 8 minutes.
Okay. Kimberly Sims, the single lady. Go ahead.
Okay, so Kim already touched on one of my questions, which was, do men experience domestic violence? And I think I know some men, but I'm gonna leave that alone.
I'm gonna be real with you, Kim.
Mhm.
I know some big men that did decades in prison that are with women that takes full advantage of the fact that they went in as babies and they will not hit a woman under any circumstances. And they take advantage of that. I know some women who take advantage of some of my brothers emotionally. You know what I'm saying? That guilt trip type mentality, just because you was the first one who stood by him when he first came home, but he's outgrown you and you've outgrown him because you knew that this little boy was going to eventually grow into his manhood once he was able to be released and grow and stop being stagnated. And it's like, it's a lot. I see a lot of them like, oh, sis, I'm so miserable. And you have no idea how many phone calls I get when somebody is like, I'm ready to give up, all because of some kind of relationship, even not even sexual. It could be from family members having expectations of somebody that is so unrealistic, it's ridiculous. It's like they get abused and men will not speak out. What man do you know that is 6 feet, 6'2", gonna tell his bros that his 5'3" woman slaps the dog shit on him? Ooh, I'm sorry, y'all, I didn't mean to
You
cuss.
good? You all right?
But slaps him around regularly and he does nothing but just let her because he is stuck in a hard place. Well, it's at one point in time he ain't had nowhere else to go, and before he could pay the bills, she was doing this. So now he feel like I can't leave her type situation. It's like you'd be surprised like how many men feel unloved and provide. What about the men who have raised these kids and they wasn't theirs? And they find out after they raised it wasn't theirs. They abuse too. It's a lot of domestic situation, and we don't, like I keep saying, the family. How we unify our family really needs to be modified. How we look at the family dynamics, how we interact, the relations that we build and grow on. Mother-daughter, mother-son, husband and wife, husband and daughter, husband and mother-in-law, in-laws, just cousins, nieces and nephews, your neighbors. I've been on this block that I lived on since I came home, and I promise you, I can't tell you not more than a handful of neighbors' names on this block. And I'm out there and about, and I have a nonprofit, and I can go in other people's neighborhoods, and people know me by name and by face, and be like, "Hey, Kim, how you doing?" And you know, thanks for such and such. But right here in my own neighborhood, I can't tell you a soul. Why? Because the whole dynamics of community is gone. You are scared to reach out to people and get to know people right next to you in your neighborhood. Why? Because everybody is broken and hurting, and you never know. Like, I don't want to be the one to get caught up in this one because X, Y, and Z, they be arguing all the time. And now you know that man been beating his wife, but you say nothing because you would rather go into a whole nother community and help them instead of your neighbor. This has got to change. Those situations has got to change.
Right.
We got to get to know each other. Let my neighbor be Jackie. Let my neighbor be Don, but also let all of our neighbors intersect with each other so we actually can bridge the gap, an actual person, and form a chain link from person to person, neighbor to neighbor, until we actually reach each other and say, "Oh, Kim, I can get so-and-so to you in a matter of 5 moves, from this person to this person and that person to John from Karen, and then to you, Kim. She'll be to you in 2 weeks." It's no way that we can't form a community of people that we get to know people, to where if somebody is running for their life, we'll know that we're not sending them to so-and-so, his cousin, that's beating her.
Right.
Because we have to know those things too. We can't just take a person and put them in a safe house. What if that's that boy's uncle, wife? And we don't even know it. We didn't put her in this safe house, and we can't contact her for 72 hours, and we come to find out she dead because we done took her to the boy's family.
Right.
You know, we have to know the people and know them. And in order to do that, we must build a community of real people.
Absolutely.
And it got to be more than just survivors.
Right. Thank you so much. We only got 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So I know I am hoping that I know we said we was gonna take this in one take, but hopefully maybe we can get together to finish it out, because there's still a lot more questions that we have for you ladies. So I'm hoping that we can get together again and maybe do a second episode. If not, I understand completely, but I'm hoping that's something that can happen. Maybe within a week or so. We'll post a little early the second half of this, but I really, really, really appreciate you ladies coming out. Dawn, thank you so very much. Kim, thank you so very much. I'm Kim, the single lady of SMD Viewpoints. I am just heartfelt right now because I feel like this will help a lot of men and women. And I'm hoping that it will not only help the victims and the survivors, but that it will help the abusers as well. Jackie, you want to, or Karen, you all want to say something before we head off?
I'm Jackie. I'm the divorce person in the SMD Viewpoints, and I have also been a victim of domestic violence. And like Kim, it's really heartfelt. I felt myself tearing up a little bit at Kimberly's story about her sister. And I want to learn more about the nonprofit that you have going on. But like I said, hopefully we'll get together with you guys soon to do episode 2, because this is something that's really near and dear to my heart as well. So thank you so much. Karen?
Thank you, ladies, once again. And we appreciate you all for coming on. I'm trying to look for my little sign that I had to show the national number. The national number, which is, Don, if I think I remember correctly,
1-800-799-SAFE? Is that correct, Dawn?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All
Yes,
right,
thank you.
ladies. So before it just disconnects us, this is SMD Viewpoints. Again, ladies, I will give you all, and hopefully we can do this again and finish up the questions that we have. I'm so happy right now. I believe we're gonna change lives just with this episode itself, and then once we get a chance to finish, it'll just really